Chair. Let's introduce ourselves at the table. Carl.
Carl Stang.
Hi, this is Rolf Jacobson.
Roy Cheney, Deputy City Administrator.
Great. And Kevin.
Kevin Stevenson, Mobility and Parking Manager.
Great. And we have a couple of people online. Can we hear you?
This is Joy Porter.
Hi, Joy. Thank you for joining us. And is Bob available?
Bob.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, this is the July 26th meeting of the Mobility and Parking Board. And it's a regular meeting agenda. As you might have gathered, we haven't met in what, 2 months? February, quite a while ago. But we, at that meeting, decided that staff is doing a great job, so I'll let them run a little bit. And so tonight, they are going to present what has happened in the last 4 months. And we can all take a look and weigh in and go from there. So the first item of business is to approve the agenda. Does everybody have a copy of the agenda?
Yes,
Okay,
Yes, I do.
okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Bill, I move that we approve the agenda for the July meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please specify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, and I'm not quite sure who voted. It's hard when people are online. Okay, the next item of business is approval of the meeting minutes from our February 22nd meeting. And that was in the packet. So I would like to ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
aye.
Okay, we have 4.
Bill,
Yes,
one really minor thing going
Sure.
back, and I apologize, I meant to mention this earlier. Just one comment going forward on the agenda. It still mentions Jeff Jones as the Public Works Director. We probably
Right.
want to get that
I noticed
corrected.
that. Yeah. I guess, Kevin, can you fix that?
Yep.
For a future meeting. Okay, public comment on non-agenda items. Now, this is the public's opportunity to come forward and speak to us about anything you want to talk about, as long as it's related to mobility and parking. So I'd ask anybody who had a question or wanted to say some words, come on forward. Anybody?
Can you all hear me?
Barely, Bob.
Okay, good. I just didn't know if you could, if you heard me before. I'm on the call, just as an FYI.
Yes, I can hear you now. Before it was hard.
Right. Okay, we have somebody who would like to address us. And if you'd state your name and address, we would appreciate that.
My name is Joni Jones and I live at 513 Cannon Avenue.
Okay, well, have a seat and
I'd rather
tell us what
stand,
you'd
but
like
thank you.
to talk to us about.
So we petitioned for residential parking back in February. And that's why our Cannon Ave residents are here this evening to follow through with that petition.
Is this all the way up Canyon?
Yes,
Okay,
The petition was from Grand Avenue to Glen Avenue. I can't recall the 100 blocks right now.
true.
and you got a petition? Okay, and did it have enough signatures on it?
It has reached support. We're looking for board support tonight as well.
Okay,
It had support of all residents except for 2.
okay. Well, that's, how many residents signed the petition, or how many?
Kevin, I didn't bring that with me. Do you have that here?
I didn't bring it with me either. I want to say there were 24 or 25 addresses listed on there between the blocks of Grand Avenue and Glen.
Okay, well, that's certainly enough.
Well, there were more than
qualified.
24 people on the petition.
Oh, nope, sorry, that was the Pawnee one.
Uh, were
I don't recall. I can
upwards of
email the board that
50 or
information.
60, if I recall.
Yep,
Is
I was
that
thinking of
right?
another petition we're working on.
And I gather you're very much in favor of an RPP for. area?
We are with an exception,
Okay,
and that wasn't in the petition. It wasn't even, an option. But we feel like there should be some parking for employees down in town. Our employees are very, very important in our town. And when they do park on our street, it still leaves us enough parking. But it's when the tourists park up there that they fill every single space. And they're not very courteous as far as how they park and leaving their trash. So employee parking, I'm very much in favor of that, even though it wasn't on the petition. But if that's going to be allowed, then I think it should only be on the east side of Canyon, which is the side where the Log Cabin Church is there, it's Timberline Church. And it should also be available for residents to park on that side also.
mhm,
And I would also mention that the striping is inadequate and it is never, I've painted the line several times myself, almost the length of our block, because it just leaves less parking for residents, because it's so haphazard. So, can anybody else think of anything else?
yeah, come on out, introduce yourself and give us your name and address and.
My name's Pam Peterson. I live at 516 Canyon Avenue,
Okay,
and everything that Joni has said is agreeable and true. And there's other situations that happen. My neighbors at 518 a couple of years ago were out of town, and I came home to find a family sitting on their porch having lunch, drinking their beer. And I thought, I wonder if these were friends that they didn't tell us was going to stay here. So I said, do you know so-and-so? And they said, oh no, we're just having our lunch break before we leave. This looked like a real pretty place to look at the mountains. So I know this, and I told them that it's a private residence. They're not allowed to do that and they need to leave right away. And the dad said, well, when I finish my beer, I will. And I said, well, then I'm calling the police right now. And they got up and left. And
They were tourists.
yeah, tourists. And the thing is I know that this is not the only situation in this vicinity that tourists have taken upon themselves to sit on lawns, private lawns, porches, other people's chairs. And it's ridiculous. The garbage is getting ridiculous. We pick it up just so it's not there. There's diapers, there's food, there's ashtrays emptied, beer and pop bottle. I mean, just anything you could imagine.
gee,
On top of this, they have no respect for the residents there. Even walking up to look at flowers, pick at flowers that are in private yards, pick them. It's like we're part of Manitou's tourism. And it's really annoying.
I'm sorry. It's sort of funny, but it's really not very funny.
No,
It's not funny
not
at
when-
all.
When you look on your Ring doorbell and somebody is sitting at your patio table while
Yeah.
you're out of
Right.
town.
Yeah,
And the neighbor calls me and Joni, are you looking at your camera? I'm like, no, why? I'll look at it now and yeah.
You,
strange.
you gotta understand that
They just come up
having
the
it-
stairs and they have to go through one or two flights of
yeah,
stairs.
they
to
have
get where
to
they
go a long ways to get up to our area too.
Yeah. Having RPP doesn't guarantee that you're not gonna still have some of those problems.
Well, it would help.
Well, they're
It
not
would help,
parking
it
right
would
there.
help.
So-
But
Let me ask one question. So you're talking about at Grand going all the way up to the bridge,
Yes.
basically,
Yes.
and stopping there.
I
And-
did
and
the
that's on both-
petition From Spencer. So
To-
starting at, what's that multiplex, right across from Spencer?
Okay,
It has, I think, 6 apartments or 8 apartments and they have sufficient parking. Most of the time unless they have 2 cars.
okay. Is that street parking now from Spencer to Grand?
Yes.
Is that metered?
No, all of
All
all
of
of
it.
Cannon Ave is.
From the Cliff
Street
House all
parking
the way up
for
to the.
anybody.
Is
bridge
free.
Is no
the whole
meters.
street.
Okay, that's obviously an issue. And then that's going all the way up to Glen, as you say, and that's passing by the church too. Did they sign the petition or what did it, the church, the Baptist
The
church?
church has
church
their
has-
own parking.
they-
They've got lots on both sides.
They have a
of the
lot of
building.
their own park,
He
right?
didn't even ask him since he
Okay.
has his own parking lot.
Right.
He doesn't allow others to park there, so
But you've pretty much canvassed almost all of the residents, you think?
I canvassed every single one.
Well done. So it certainly seems like a great opportunity to do that. So-
I do have a question, Bill.
Yeah, go
Um,
ahead.
we don't really have a way to allow employees to park there once it's an RPP. Because the residents will get their passes, but we wouldn't be able to identify all the employees who park there. I don't think we have a mechanism to accommodate. It's a very gracious idea from the neighborhood, but I'm not sure we have a way to distinguish our different employees.
So this is Roy. Actually, in the RPP manual allows for modification of the RPP for that neighborhood.
Oh, okay, great.
And I do believe, just like you, Joy, that the offer to allow the employees to park is pretty amazing and would be
Yes.
very helpful for our employee parking situation. So I would totally support that idea that it's on the one
Okay.
side, that it's probably signed properly so they know. But I definitely believe that would be a nice thing to help them out, but try to keep visitors from that area and,
Okay.
put them where they're supposed to go. Hiawatha, for example, things like that.
Yes. Well, that's good because I was thinking it was such a good offer. I hated to not be able to do it. So that's good to know that you can modify it and you and Kevin can figure out how to do that for us.
Yeah, Joy, we have launched a downtown employee permit program that is monitored and tracked the same way the RPPs are, so we can actually identify those vehicles.
Okay, good, Kevin. That's so good to hear. Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
May I say something else? So Cannon Ave, like I said, I believe there's some room for employee parking. But if there are modifications in this, then there are also a limited number of spaces. I don't like talking in front of people. A limited number of spaces on Grand that can also be, and I don't think that it would be just to only allow some employee parking on Canyon and not utilize the spaces, because I've monitored it and not utilize at least 10 spaces on Grand. That's a lot of employees. So
That's a good point.
I would like to put forth that if we're gonna do this modification for Cannon Ave, that we also do a small amount of parking for employees on Grand Ave.
Right.
Yeah, so Grand has its, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, has its own RPP at this time. But we don't mind reaching out to that RPP and inquiring about that need. And I agree, there is room on Grand for employee parking as well. And we could do it the same way, but we would have to check with that RPP.
That's correct. We would have to notify the initial petitioner if they're still in the neighborhood, if not the neighborhood as a whole, that we're looking at a modification, what it would look like, and then get their initial support as well.
Yes, very important to show them what it would look like. Because they shouldn't have access to the whole street.
Right.
Because further up, residents need that, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe even 8, 9 spaces, there's available for
They
employees
could
there.
park it way up at Glen,
Yeah,
right up at the end.
yeah.
We'll look at that.
Is there any question why we couldn't go ahead at this point, staff? Okay,
Bob, Bill, we can go forward and review the Grand Avenue one and then check with the RPP neighborhood. And I think that this request would be a good example to them of some cooperation with employees that work in the area.
right.
And I do believe that the employee parking actually will help reduce visitors because they're taking some empty spots that are being asked to be parked in anyway. And it'll start, where they will know the employees there is kind of a friendlier situation than not knowing the visitors that are just swinging wherever they want to and parking wherever they want to. So we'll see if we can't get that going as well. I think it would be very helpful. I do have one question on the striping that you talked about. Are you talking about the parking spaces striping? Okay. For parking. Okay. So I will take a look at that as well. We're doing striping and paving in the city now, and so I'll see what we can do in that area. So, okay, thank you. Okay.
Say that the employees, because I'll go out and speak to them, or out in my patio. If they're not parking far enough up, allow for another 3 instead of just 2.
Bill, that isn't being recorded. You can't hear it.
Yeah, some tourists are too. Really good.
Joy, did you have a comment?
Just that we can't hear the
Yeah. Could you repeat that at the microphone for Joy?
I don't know what I said.
It was good.
I have found that the employees, that we need the painting of the parking spaces. Because that's very important to be able to enable, the maximum amount of parking. And that hasn't been done. And I think the last time it was done, I did both sides of the street, with my own out of money pocket and spray paint. Probably illegal, but that's okay. I found that the employees are generally very respectful when I go out and say, pull your car up another 5 feet so we can fit another 3 cars behind you instead of 2. But it's really not their fault because the spaces aren't clearly marked. And I would like to say that whatever signage you put up, it needs to be adequate and it needs to be frequent.
Okay, well,
I don't know how that works. But in order to, because it's been public parking for so long, it needs to be well known that it's not anymore. So whoever is in charge of that, Kevin, is that you? Can I coordinate that with you?
You sure can.
Since I live there and see it all?
Yep.
Okay.
okay, well, thank you for your comments. Those of staff, anybody on the board have a comment at this point?
Do we need to make a motion, Bill?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to make a motion. Go ahead, Joy.
I would move to approve the RPP on the streets that have been mentioned with some modifications to accommodate employees and other employees.
Okay. Staff, how do you feel about the motion?
I think we need to add east side of the street,
Oh,
east
just
side of the
side?
street.
Okay,
Yeah, otherwise the motion seems fine if we just add the east side.
all right. I would add the east side to the
Would you
motion.
accept that, Joy?
Yes, I
And
would.
East side for employees to include residents. Okay,
Yes.
Is that your motion, Joy?
Yes, it is. Roy
Okay,
did a good job.
thank you, Joy. Is there a second to the motion? Gentlemen?
Second, do I have comments?
Okay, Carl seconded. Staff, any further comments that you might have on the motion?
No, we can work on signage for the east side of the road. We can identify how many permits can be issued for downtown employees. And I'm in support.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on the motion.
Bill, can we-
Yes, Carl.
Can we have a quick
Yeah,
side discussion? Sorry. So a procedural question, and not that I posed the motion, but so I was under the impression previously that we could not vote in public comment, that we only voted on items on the agenda. Is that a correct or incorrect
No,
understanding on my part?
you are technically correct. And I think that in this case, well, how would you like us to treat this, staff?
Well, based on the code, we could actually, under the RPP rules, do it from a staffing operational, as long, if you all approve of us going operational on this, we'll just do it from an operational perspective and move
Okay.
forward as talked about tonight.
Very good. That answer your question?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Do we need to
Okay.
withdraw the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
So the RPP allows for staff to look at any RPP request, and we can actually implement it without further approvals and get it going. So
Okay.
that's all that means. We always like to come to the board. We'd like to get their approval as well. And at this point, it'll still go to council for approval, but we'll go through, start getting the process going from an operation perspective.
Thank you.
No, this is the board, mobility and parking board, which is the perfect place to go. We will take it to council, but we'll let you know if you need to come in and talk. We will let you as well and let you know that we're supporting it. And normally that's council supports what the neighborhoods want. That's how it's been so far. So,
Okay, Joy, you had a comment?
No,
No comment? Okay.
no, I just said thank you, Roy.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. The motion is to move forward with an RPP with,
No, it was to withdraw the motion.
I'm sorry, say again.
It's to withdraw the motion and allow
Oh,
Roy.
you're going to withdraw the motion. Okay.
Yes.
All right, the motion is withdrawn at the request of Joy. So remaining members, we have a motion on the floor.
No,
Still have a quorum. Well, we have a quorum, I guess, but let's,
we're not voting though.
you want to make a motion, either Carl or Rolf?
Well, is a motion needed here? I mean, we've given
Yeah.
approval.
Technically, it's probably not, but it's always good to have on the record.
so I will take it for the record that I heard that the board agrees with us pursuing an RPP in that area. And so I can just say we're going to do that as a staff, and Kevin will get work on that, and
Okay,
we'll move forward. So
Very
that
good.
probably solves that problem.
that solves that
Okay.
problem. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, neighborhood, for coming in and offering your comments. And as you heard, staff is going to be on it, and we'll get some progress here for you. So appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Okay, do we have any other public comments? Hearing none, let's move forward to presentations. And this is the mid-year PowerPoint presentation by staff of progress that has been made since our last meeting in February. So Carrie, take it away. Joy and
Yes.
anybody else online, can you see the what's coming your way, the
It
presentation
comes-
by staff?
It comes on and off, but I have it on my iPad.
Can you see it, Joy?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Sorry about the technical delay. Okay, all right, so I'm Kevin Stevenson, and I'm going to present the Mobility and Parking Board July update. Some of our accomplishments that we've been able to do since the last meeting is our office has relocated to the multi-purpose room at the Pool and Fitness Center. We did that to accommodate the remodeling that is taking place here in City Hall for administration and planning. So far, everybody's been able to find us. It's a beautiful atmosphere to be in. The scenery is great. We're loving the pool. We're able to work out of there really well. We've started utilizing the Smarking application in the Bar Trail lot. And the Smarking, as everybody knows, captures the transaction data and provides us usage and duration, revenue. It gives us an overall solid picture of what's happening in our streets and in our parking lots. We have purchased 5 new parking pay stations and we're swapping those out throughout town, just keeping up with the aging infrastructure that the parking department's working with. We've had some additional Pike Ride hubs approved. One has been installed at Lulu's downstairs. And there's been some discussion on the second location. Currently, our department, along with, I've seen streets driving it, I've seen Parks and Recs driving it, some EV vehicles for demonstration purposes. We have purchased a new license plate recognition system for our patrol car. The camera, go ahead, Carl.
Do you want questions and comments at the end or as we go?
What do you think, Roy? I think we could do them as we go.
Yeah, I'm fine with as we go.
Okay.
So was there any discussion around the license plate recognition system? And I'm asking from the concern, there's a lot of security concerns around that data and how long that data lasts and who gets to see that. So just curious what the background is, if you happen to know.
So we've had a license plate recognition system since the days of SP Plus. It is Genetech products managed by Route One. They manage police departments across the nation, parking departments across the nation. It's in their secure cloud. And there are 2 of us in the office that are able to access the actual capture data, which is myself and James.
So it's being used for parking purposes or it's being used by the police department?
It's being used for parking purposes. It ties into our paid parking system. It does have those capabilities, but we do not have access, not being law enforcement, to where we'll get that intimate detail of the license plate, registered owner information, so on and so forth. We're having it for paid parking purposes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Our department, along with Roy's help, we had a successful Citizens Academy that was held in the end of May. There were 25 participants in that. Huge success. I mean, it was fantastic. The engagement from the group just in our department. We did bring the LPR vehicle down, showed them how that works. They were very interested and intrigued by that. And several of the group chose to issue some parking tickets to that vehicle using our equipment. And at the end of it, they were very surprised how much actually goes into the parking operation in town. The successful transition to Pay Station 8, this is huge for us in the office. This is the software that runs our paid parking system on the streets. Before it was it's called BOSS, a back office support system, where we would set everything up. We'd have to go to each machine with a thumb drive and manually upload this. This is now web-based and we're able to do the entire operation at once with a few clicks of a mouse. So with the progressive parking rates that we're doing, we get everything loaded, we schedule it, and then we can watch it after hours from the computer to make sure everything's going through. This has been a huge success for T2 Systems that provided this for us as well. We've been coordinating with the Public Works Department for the 2 EV trams. You had a question, Bill?
Well, go ahead. The question I was going to ask is, how are the trams being used and how's that working out?
So Roy would probably be able to give a little more detail into when we're receiving them. We're starting to work on the routes now because I believe it's end of September. Dole said that we're receiving those.
Yeah, so the trams have been ordered and actually we're looking probably November to get them. If we're lucky, maybe October. And there'll be 2 of them. And then we are currently working on a route and some routes and also talking with Mountain Metro. We actually meet with them once a month now and discussing because we don't want to block their routes. And so we're going to work together and they're very excited for this help as well with all the people that are here to bring them into town through a tram system. And then also we're going to be looking at, how we can do the resident side with that too. So my guess is November is when we'll start doing some pilot. It's kind of slower. It's actually perfect for us maybe on weekends to do the trams and see how they're working out and adjusting it before next summer.
So basically they're people movers.
Correct. Yes, they are.
Okay, great. Well, we've
So-
been talking about this for quite a while. So
Yes,
it's great to see
park
it happen.
once and then use bikes or use trams or use, that's kind of the goal.
Great.
That takes us into our next bullet, evaluating with Public Works, the routes for the EV future use. License agreement with the Community Congregational Church. The church approached us to manage their parking lot and allow downtown employee permits to utilize that lot. So that's what that license agreement is. It's been in effect now for just about 2 months. We're seeing some success. There's a learning curve trying to get people that have found the lot before with the donations. It is signed for downtown employees. Staff is doing pretty thorough, rigorous patrols through there to make sure we're only getting those authorized permits. And if anybody has seen all the bright yellow and blue curbs that are starting to pop up, we've began repainting all those. Go ahead, Carl.
On the painting, so I noticed there was a yellow stripe in the center of the shoulder on the south side of El Paso. Is that going to be rectified?
That was addressed with the painting contractor. They're mobilizing tomorrow to get that removed.
You guys are all over it. Thank you.
Did you have something, Bill? Alex Treffry, our public information officer, reached out to Roy and I would say about a month ago now, that Manny the Beaver on the website is getting a lot of parking questions. So he had the brilliant idea for a parking facts page. Took some of the information he was receiving off of that, reached out to myself and Roy on common questions we're asked. And we put together the parking facts page, which surprisingly, in the couple weeks it's been up, I think it's slowed down some of the phone calls for those common questions we're getting in the office. We've gone through 2 parking progressive rate changes since the last meeting. A bike rack was donated by the Manitou Springs High School and the installation was done over here just on the east side of the train. It's a beautiful bike rack. If anybody hasn't seen it, I definitely recommend swinging by, taking a look at it. We're working with the planning department on a downtown signage master plan. We have added RV and oversized vehicle parking areas on Manitou Avenue in the 400 block and the 300 block. This is helping, especially this time of year, people up and down the pass, finding places to park their trucks and trailers, their larger RV vehicles. We had some coordination with Public Works for the Park Avenue paving and restriping. We've updated the pay to park signage along Canyon, El Paso, 400 block, Hiawatha, 500 block. We're still in progress. This time of year, we're super busy. We've added a bike rack at the post office. We've got that bike rack at the Wichita lot secured. We reinstalled a parking logic sign at Canyon Avenue that was sent off for warranty work at the end of last summer season. That's up and functional. We've had some honk mobile changes. And this is the big one that I would like to discuss personally for me. I did attend the International Parking and Mobility Institute 2023 conference in Fort Worth. That was a 4-day conference with a class on Sunday. I spent 9 hours in the class specifically designed for managers and directors. We covered budgeting, staffing, project management, implementation of new technologies. It was a huge class for me. It was fantastic. And now I get the chance to put Manitou in the spotlight. While down there and people were seeing the logo on my clothes, I was being followed around and asking questions about what we're doing, how we're doing it, because we seem to be a success story to a lot of other communities. I honestly was expecting to maybe have the people that set the conference up that I've been communicating with know who I was. Miami Parking tracked me down. We had New York City Parking was looking for me to talk to me. Greeley Parking, San Diego Parking, there were several different big cities that were looking specifically for Manitou Springs to ask questions about what we're doing. Oh, okay. You hear that, Roy? That's job security. And then the rest of the time, I did some shop talks and other courses, curb management, LPR, and one of the biggest shop talks I did was the international mobility. What was the conflicts? It's not just Manitou Springs that's dealing with the congestion and the cruising. We heard from speakers from Melbourne, Australia, London, and Ontario, along with the Miami director was speaking on that they are all facing similar problems we are. And listening to their takes on how they're going about. City of Miami wants to become a smart city where they have the pucks in every parking stall that feeds out live data. On this block, we have X amount of spaces. To Melbourne's saying they have plenty of space. They want to do satellite parking and become a walkable city. So it's both sides of the spectrum that was displayed there. As well as getting to meet some of our vendors actually face to face. The parking world and the parking industry lives in Canada. So a lot of my coordination is either Zoom meetings or phone calls. It was nice to get to physically be in the same room with these vendors. They can hear our success stories, offering new ideas, hearing what we have for feedback to make the product better. And this one's for Bob. He's real interested in that. When I uploaded this, we had 774 residential license plates loaded into the free parking credits. I did earlier this year complete advanced sign making training up at Public Works. Mobility and parking staff has completed 2 quarters worth of the IPMI training that's designed for frontline staff, conflict management, curb management. It just gives the staff better tools to do their job out on the street. And the IPMI is the world leading organization for parking and mobility industry. So we can't get any better training than from this group here. E-bike tours and rentals. They had moved to a new location. Previously, they were operating on the east side of the Hiawatha building on the concrete pad. They have moved down towards the subway. They're in that parking lot with Subway and the liquor store. It seems to be working out great for them. And by them moving, we were able to add an additional 12 parking stalls into the Hiawatha lot. Seal coat and restripe and new signage for the Prospect lot.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. How many spaces then do we have at this point in Hiawatha?
156, not including the ADA.
156.
Yes, that was with the demolition of the old parts of the building and then being able to add those spaces where e-bike tours and rentals moved out from.
Yeah, that's a significant improvement.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you.
Kevin, with the EV up now, the charging for the EV vehicles, is that still being included in that count?
It is because
Okay.
it was after the 4 hours, it wasn't move. It was they had to pay to park then, correct?
Yeah, well, the the DC, the level 3 is a 20 to 30-minute parking.
Okay.
Only, but they do get charged parking after that. And then the level 2 is up to 4 hours because it takes longer to charge. But then after that, there's a charge based on if they're full, they get charged.
Right.
So, but that's still in the count, I suppose, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So on that note, we have EV charging capability. What, 2 stalls, one for each type?
We have the DC one, and then we have two dual level 2s. So there's total of 5. And they charge now either one as they have adapters. So
Yeah, the level 2s take what? Several hours to charge?
yeah, I mean, the level 2 can take up to 4 hours, but that's okay. They go in, they're paying for that charge time. And then once they get charged, then it goes to a parking rate if they're not back yet. And then the DC, that one is probably critical. They kind of move out after 30 minutes to give people a chance because it's really a quick charging and really not expected. They go around and shop and park there longer than 30 minutes because they know it's a quick charge. If not, then, and that rate's even higher. Offhand, I don't have those rates. We just started changing or putting those in today. Basically following the same pattern as CSU and working with their charging pricing and what they've been doing downtown.
And they do pay for the charging.
Correct. It's paid. And on top of that, in Shriver Park, we are getting a grant to change those chargers as well because they've been there for probably at least 6 years or longer, maybe now. So we're looking at changing those as well.
Yeah.
And then possibly doing charging or charging for those. So we're going to make those chargeable as well, a price. Because right now those are free. So.
Okay, great. Okay, let the record reflect that at what time
5:49.
that Corey is joining us for the meeting. Welcome, Corey.
Hi, everyone. I'm really sorry. It's in my mind. I'm out of practice and I'm sorry I'm late.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We've seal coated, restriped, and I today approved the proposal for new Prospect Lot signage. I've got pictures of the lot. The lot looks fantastic, almost brand new. And this bottom one's pretty important because our staff, in an effort to keep the lots looking good and take some workload off the Parks and Recs department, we've completed some weed eating trading for lot maintenance. So this will help around the Canyon lot, which Hiawatha lot, Bar lot if we need it, Prospect lot. And back to the Prospect lot, we did coordinate with Park and Recs for some landscaping up there. The hillside on the south side of that parking lot had some overgrown trees and other growth. They did get up there, our arborist and his team, and they did a fantastic job. If anybody has any time to kill, check out the Prospect lot. We're loving it.
Hey, Kevin, can I add that they also in the new striping have added 10 more spaces in that lot as well. So now that's pretty huge. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed by when I drove by the Prospect lot and saw it and I said, oh my gosh, what's happened to Prospect? It's not dirt anymore. Thank you.
Hey, Kevin, before you move on, the last bullet, there's a typo. It says competed, not completed. I don't know if you're going to council or not, but you might want to fix.
Oh, thanks, Carl. Appreciate it. And here's what we have in the works for the rest of the year. We're working on replacing 5 of the aging kiosks with the new units. Pawnee Avenue is looking for a city initiated RPP. We can get into that discussion a little bit later. Continue to update the paid parking signs throughout town. This time of year, we're very busy. We've seen an uptick in vehicle traffic and tourists. We're coordinating with Public Works for chip sealing Pinion Lane, Cedar Lane, Winona Road, Clarksley Road, Via Piedras, Deer Path, and High Street. And when I uploaded this, we were still coordinating. That work has been completed now. So that can be moved over to the accomplishments. Go ahead, Carl.
I'm almost certain this is addressed, but just to go on the record, the contractor left a mess all over town. Manitou Avenue, Becker's, Crystal Park Road, chip seal, pebbles, tar, all kinds of stuff, and hopefully we can get them to clean that up.
So I'll address that. They did just finish up the last road today. And part of the contract is a full cleanup. We assure you that we are going to hold them accountable to do the cleanup before they get their payment. So it's going to take a little while because we did 14 roads total this year with some good planning with our PPRTA money. And they did that all in the last several days here. So the cleanup will start occurring tomorrow and going over the next few days. And again, Dole, our city engineer, and myself will inspect those areas, go over them with them before we release any more funds to that group. But all in all, they did a really good job, and there is going to be just some mess after they do that until they get it cleaned up. So if you see anything, please don't hesitate to email me and let me know, because there are a lot of roads. And so if there's something we miss, we definitely will go out and make sure that's taken care of.
Roy, with regard to the chip seal, how long is that going to last?
Great question. So a couple things. When we did our surface test of all the roads, that's where we got our plans on what roads needed what. And then we contacted the experts. I even reached out to Colorado Springs Public Works Streets Department to come out and help us. So based on that is what we determined would be chip seal or versus paving. Chip seal can last, depending on the area, but 5 to 10 years. And the good news with that is that, we don't necessarily want to pay for 30 or 50, a 30 to 50 year pavement job when we know we have a lot of infrastructure pipes to do. So this gave an opportunity to make roads in neighborhoods drivable and livable, and give us 5 to 10 years to start working on infrastructure. And then if we tear into chip seal, it's not a big deal. Tearing into a brand new paved road is a big deal. So once you tear into a brand new paved road, it starts to break down. So for example, El Monte is paved. If you haven't had a chance to go up El Monte, we did the areas that were ready for pavement, had to do pavement, couldn't do chip seal. But we'll keep working on that, getting some chip seal in neighborhoods as we go in the next couple of years. We have plans for moving forward on that. And then as we keep working towards the infrastructure and improvements, the next round, once they reach that lifespan of the chip seal, we'll start looking at pavement for those areas. The other side of the chip seal, of course, it seals out moisture. So that makes this road last longer and protects it from potholes. So the chip seal has a lot of benefits that we should do regardless on any new pavement as we go in the future too, to protect it for longer use. So good question. Thank you.
Well, it's pretty impressive when you drive around a little bit and notice, wow, we haven't seen this kind of stuff forever.
I agree. And some of these roads are almost just dirt. I mean, it's that critical. And so we are working hard on that. Yes. Yes, sir.
The parking department's been coordinating with Public Works for some Wichita lot repairs requested by the Metro Board.
Which repairs?
Wichita lot,
Which repairs are you talking about?
Shimmy had requested the lot be repaved and striped.
Oh, right, okay. I also like to mention that the bathrooms are done there also, so that was a great upgrade to handicap available bathrooms. So thank you, city, for doing that.
I did meet with a paving contractor today. He did assure me that I'd received the bid today, but it was mid-afternoon when he was finally able to make it. So I'm assuming I'll see that tomorrow for the Wichita lot. We're coordinating with Public Works for Ruxton Avenue restriping of the center lane, pedestrian upgrades on Ruxton, as well as restriping Crystal Park Road with a lane diet. And we've had continued meetings with the Pike Ride and e-bike voucher group.
Question
Go ahead.
on Ruxton. So is this the improvements that have been talked about for Ruxton, or is this yet to come?
This, so this has nothing to do with the Ruxton improvements.
Okay,
That's a whole different thing. I'll talk a little bit about that with the deputy city report. That's a different project, but what we're facing on Ruxton is as we put a stripe down, it seems like 30 seconds later, the stripe's gone because it just doesn't last on Ruxton. So we're looking at in-lane stripe, and on the east side of Manitou Avenue and now on maps, it's inlaid, which means we can get several years out of one striping. We're going to look at doing that for Ruxton, and it's right now that stripe is gone. So it's hazardous for the buses and people, they don't know where to drive. So we're going to try to coordinate the best we can with the businesses up on top there and do a section at a time, probably take 3 days and try to get that done as soon as possible. So that's, it's safer for the vehicles and for pedestrians. So to add on to that, I'll just take that next line of pedestrian upgrades. There's been a request from Winter Street on up that we put a crosswalk there, and then we put some more delineators up going to the right of Iron Spring Chateau, because the delineators for walking have worked very well. People are really happy with those. So we're going to be replacing those with new ones because they're pretty wiped out from some cars. And then we're going to repaint those and crosswalk it and bring it up further for pedestrian safety. And that's been a request by several people to push that up further up the road. So we're going to do that.
so the crosswalks that we did have are going back in.
Correct. They will be restriped as well at the same time.
Bill, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to compliment Roy and Kevin on all the work that's been done and all the forward thinking, and compliment to Manitou about where we are with our parking and transportation and mobility. It's really good to hear that, and just want to compliment you for all the work that you have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
What's the e-bike voucher group mean?
You want me to handle that, Roy? Okay. In mid-May, a group approached the city for an e-bike voucher program similar to the one that the state has for low income, where you would receive a voucher to cover some cost of an e-bike to try to put more bikes on the road instead of vehicles. We were working with that. It was first presented to council mid-June while I was down at the conference in Texas, so I did miss that meeting. And we did pick up again last Friday, and Pike Ride had joined in on that because Pike Ride is doing the lease option for low income individuals to get a Pike Ride bike. That was a very good discussion. Roy was part of that along with the working group. And we're looking to move forward. We have a plan that I believe we're going to meet several more times before it goes to council to nail it down in a presentation. It's very exciting for us. It's going to increase our micromobility use.
I'll add on a little bit, Kevin, just from today's meeting with Mountain Metro. So we were able to coordinate Bike Ride with Mountain Metro because there's interest in how do you connect the e-bikes with the shuttle service, and they haven't even talked. So Manitou was able to get those two groups to talk, and they're excited about how do we connect bikes with the shuttle service when they need to stop. You know, how do they know where the next bike racks are, or the next location where they can get a bike and work together. So they're gonna start meeting with us monthly, Pike Ride, and just trying to figure that out, because Mountain Metro really did not have a clue of that connection. So it's exciting that we're going to have that going on too, to help with that whole mobility options.
That's great, Rory. Glad to hear it.
Can I ask a little bit about that program also? As I wasn't at the council meeting, but as I heard about it, it was a proposal to provide an e-bike voucher program, and it was later proposed by council that it be modified to include low income. Is that accurate?
Yes, and that's where Pike Ride is working with the state on a low income voucher program with the CDBG area, which we have on the south side of Manitou Avenue, and that's where we're able to get, that's for income areas. So for parts of the city. And again, that's for any e-bike, so it doesn't have to be Pike Ride. So it's going to be their choice of bike. And then there, for those who are outside of that CDBG area or that low income area, there would still be a voucher program, just probably cost a little bit more. That's kind of the discussion at this point, if that's helpful.
It does help a little, and it's an intriguing prospect. And I guess I would say, as a member of the MAP board, I would hope that we might be engaged in some of those discussions. And I'd like to go on record with a comment of saying that I think an e-bike voucher program that's designed to remove existing cars off the street and get more people to use bikes in Manitou probably need not be focused on low income, and might be, my instinct is I think we should open it to everybody, including people that are regularly using cars. And could we encourage people to get out of their cars and onto e-bikes and not add the complication of a low income aspect to it? That's not my final point on it, but it seems like a healthy discussion for this board to have. And so I guess my request would be, my request to council is that we would be engaged in that discussion.
Okay, I will talk with Denise about this, since it was I believe a council member initiative, and see how she wants that managed. I don't disagree. I think having the MAPS board, or at least a member, maybe be part of that group and then can bring back information to the board, could be good to have that input. But keep in mind too, the voucher program would be open to everybody, but there would just be a low income pricing on how, and it even can go to, according to Pike Ride, there's even availability to go at a certain level, even lower, just because of the income level and trying to get everyone access to a bike. So that would have to be worked out and discussed, but I think it's a great idea to have someone be part of that. So I'll definitely address that, and then maybe Bill, we can find out who has interest and have someone be a representative of the MAP board. I think it's a good idea.
Roy, I would just like to say too, I have attended the council meetings on that discussion. If we want it to really work, there has to be protections for people with lower income. And if someone is quite capable of paying for a bike, there should be some kind of discrimination between the two. I don't think when you use tax monies and money that to not include a way to assist people who need assistance. And since it's open to everyone, I think it's moving in a good way. Thank you.
Yes, Joy. So my understanding too, and Kevin, you were part of this, so correct me if I'm wrong. There's a low income grant opportunity. So they have certain specific requirements, and then there's a regular grant or regular opportunity. So that's why we would reach out for both. But I totally agree with Joy, and I agree with Corey. I mean, to have as many people be able to have that access to get this and get a bike is huge. And the more that can do that, maybe we'll park once and ride, or ride all the time. So I think it's a great idea. So Kevin, did I cover that? Everything on that?
Yes, I just wanted to add that there were different thresholds for the voucher amount based off of income. And now on to what we've accomplished. Just some pictures so everybody can see what we see every day. These are the new pay stations. They're slimmer design, less parts that wear out and break, so that's less maintenance for us. It has an updated display screen, which is more, what's the word I'm looking at? It's more
User friendly.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah, user friendly. And it also allows staff more capabilities. We can put custom messages on there. We can put designs on there, logos on there, and they're cheaper than the current units that we have.
Kevin, do they work in?
They do. It has a
direct sunlight.
yes. It's a much better. It's a larger print on the display. It's a very much better setup than the original pay stations we had. The controller unit inside of it, the computer is more responsive, so it's a quicker transaction and user experience. Oh, sorry, Carl, go ahead.
I was gonna wait for you to finish. I was just gonna ask if we're swapping out existing pay stations, are we gonna move them out of the sidewalk? I know there's a number of locations in town where the pay stations are in the middle of the sidewalk, which doesn't seem optimal for folks that have disabilities and such.
We are very conscious to that. We do try to leave at least that 36-inch ADA access where we can. As far as putting the smaller concrete pads into the grass areas, natural areas, I would have to coordinate with other groups to see, because the concrete over the natural area. But that's why we went with these, because they are smaller units. Our current units are 18 inches deep. These are 9.5 inches deep. So it's a much better unit that T2 is producing. And they're easier to install since our department does do that. It's one piece versus the 3 pieces on the ones we have now. Here are the Pike Ride hubs. The one on the left is the one that was just installed first part of the year at Lulu's downstairs. Every time I go by there throughout the day, I see people either dropping a bike off or picking a bike up. It's huge use for the hotels down there. I've heard from Pike Ride that has increased our ridership down there. And the picture on the right is a proposed location on Canyon Avenue. We're looking on the red area of the sidewalk in between the trees. And Roy, I can't remember, I have so many numbers in my head. I think they said 6 additional hubs or racks they could get in there, or bikes.
Yes, I think that's correct.
So, and this is right across from the Canyon parking lot and adjacent to the CenturyLink building on Canyon Avenue. Here's
Kevin, sorry, wouldn't that block the sidewalk?
It would not. So what we're looking to do is, instead of putting it on the sidewalk here, since the trees overgrow here, they're going to install them at a 45-degree angle this way. It leaves the sidewalk open with ADA access.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
These are some pictures of the EV in parking enforcement vehicles we've been driving. The one on top is from a company out of Canada that specifically designs parking enforcement vehicles. So this is set up for our operation. We can install an LPR in one of these. The picture on the bottom is the one that we've currently been driving around for the last week. This is the one the Parks Department, my department, and I've even seen Streets Department driving it. And it's been great feedback. We get about a 75 to 85 mile range on a single charge. Smaller vehicle for a tightening turning radius, which really helps us with all the places we have to go and what we have to get into. The beds on both of these models have an 800 to an 1,100 pound capacity, which is going to be great, because when we're doing cones and pay stations right now, we're shoving that stuff in the back of a 2018 Ford Explorer police vehicle. It's pretty cumbersome for us to move a lot of stuff around efficiently. And these are climate controlled for year-round use.
That's great. And we have one of those?
We're demoing one right now. The
Okay.
one on top has been ordered. City of Denver ordered 75 of those the week before I placed mine, and they're fulfilling their order. I was told we'll have it mid-September.
That's just great. I wish the police would use something similar.
What do they cost, Kevin?
The one.
Out of curiosity.
The one on top, we were able to get for 36 even. And that's the full cab, everything we need, climate control, everything. The one on the bottom came in just over 38,000.
38.
The Pay Station 8 that I mentioned earlier that makes our life easier. The picture on the left shows that brighter, bigger display that does make these easier to read. And T2 is very responsive to client, which they call us the client, inquiries and suggestions. The old version of the Pay Station had the white with the small text, or you could change it to a blue background with white text, but it remains small. They're contrast option now is black background with large yellow lettering if we needed to go to that. They're very responsive to any time a client of theirs says, we're seeing this, and they get immediately on it to develop a program to address that. And the right side is our online configuration, what we use in the office. So we have our control center, our online configuration, and our transactions all in one place instead of toggling between 4 or 5 different websites now. It's been a huge upgrade for us in the office. Here's some stock photos of what the EV trams are going to look like. And correct me if I'm wrong, Roy, Dole mentioned that they are going to be wrapped.
Yes, they will be wrapped, and I believe they put out a request for artists to put in their design options and see if someone will do it. And I'm not sure where we're at with that yet, but we're hoping, and they will be wrapped, so they're look like Manitou. I think they're going to be called Manitou Express. So everyone knows what they are, and we're excited to get those. Oh, so total with the larger batteries, or the what are they called? It's slipping my mind. The better batteries last longer. Both of them came about 180,000 for both, which is really a good price. If you recall, the trolley was $500,000 by itself. So this, if they work, we'll be able to expand these fairly easy and get people to, park once, take these in, or take the, or the bikes or whatever they want, but give them alternatives.
I think it's great. Thank you.
And if I could add just the unique design of these, I think people will use them just to say I've ridden it.
Could I make a comment?
Mhm.
Super excited to see this direction. So really want to give kudos to staff and whoever was involved in making the decision to move in this direction. It looks like it wouldn't be possible to put a bike or a bike rack on those. Is that accurate?
That's a good question. Being EV, weight is an issue. But I will tell you, I just found out today from Mountain Metro that they will not allow EV bikes at this point ever to be put on any bus. And the problem is that an EV bus, but even if it's not EV, but an EV bus is even a different challenge, is the batteries on the bikes are not as insulated as the batteries on a bus. So when there's been accidents, you have a potential of a fire that can't be put out with water, as you know, because it's a battery. So it's hazardous material. So until they find a solution to the bikes, we wouldn't put it on here either. It's going to be risky.
That makes sense to me for e-bikes.
Yes. Other bikes, but you're talking about too.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a deal breaker at all. But if there were an opportunity for people to put regular bikes, I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I guess I'm just brainstorming about it.
No, I think it got me thinking. So let me inquire a little bit. Keep in mind that the weight on the shuttles will determine how long they will last with their battery. The more we add to it, the more, we have to charge it and the less we use them. But it is worth the ask, because I don't know what their bikes are pretty light these days. Not when I rode them. They were pretty heavy, but they're really light. Maybe it's not an impact, and maybe on the back there, I don't know, maybe it could be attached. So let me look into that. I think
But
it's a good question.
Most non-e-bikes would be under 30 pounds. So,
Yes.
if you don't have a weight restriction on people, then maybe a small person with a 30-pound bike might be okay. But
You're right. Let me look
Thanks
into it.
for
I think
digging
it's a
into that.
great question. So let me ask the manufacturer, and I'll talk to Dole. Him and I have been working most on these EV shuttles. And so let me talk to him tomorrow and see, we'll inquire to the manufacturer and just see, can you do bike racks? What does that do to the time of driving? Because everything adds up on these things for sure with batteries, but it's a great question, and I will check into that.
Well, following up on the crash implications, there's got to be a technical solution for addressing that issue. And I think to get the bike on here and on Mountain Metro stuff, I would think that people would be going full forward with a solution to that. And that's a question. for-
Yeah, I think it's later down the road when they figure out some of the technology and, but it definitely is, you know, as you know, even though it's kind of around more today, the EVs, it's still new technology in some ways, and that's why it's taken forever to get them. But, you know, I think they'll start looking at how do we make all that be able to work and connect. I mean, anything's possible. We know that, right? It's just going to take some time. It's definitely a challenge with batteries. The other component is the battery weight itself. You know, what there, an article I read the other day was that, you know, you take these small EV vehicles and now they weigh as much as a SUV that was a normal gas SUV. So now if they crash, there's a lot of weight going into other cars. So there's a lot of challenges still. But you know, this is how we improve the world, and we try things out and we start inventing and thinking of better options. So I think the bike, at some point, the bikes will have to be able to
Well,
attach them, I think, but
We move beyond Henry Ford and all
Yes.
vehicles are black. you
yeah,
know?
right.
So
That's right.
I think we can do it.
I do too. I'll look into that though, Corey. Great idea. Thanks for bringing that up.
And just to be clear, I really wouldn't want to hold it up in any way. I think it's a marvelous direction for our city. I think it's going to redefine the identity of our city. It's super exciting. So thank you for your effort on that.
You bet.
Here's a layout of the Community Congressional Church lot that we did the license agreement with. So the red box on the left-hand side of the screen, that's going to be reserved for church staff parking. The rest of the lot is open to the downtown employee permits. We did have the lot restriped. It looks fantastic.
On that, obviously, you're not going to park vehicles on Sunday. And
There are some times that are blacked out on there, Sunday until 11:30. And then they are to provide 7-day notice
Okay,
for anything else that comes up at the church.
thanks.
Here's some pictures of our bright, lovely new yellow curbs. These were taken down at the pool. And like I said, they've gone all through town. They were working the weekends to get it done. They've gone all the way up to the Iron Spring Chateau on Ruxton, Upper Washington, up Sunshine Trail, down El Paso. They've done a great job for us.
What I noticed is it's amazing how many people drive up on curbs, because once they painted this, I saw so many tire marks on the.
So many
curbs.
curbing marks. Here's a screenshot of the facts page that we discussed that Alex Treffry had come up with. The number one question when I surveyed staff who answers phones, what are the paid parking times? So that's the number one on there. Where can I park an oversized vehicle was our second. And this is only a small snip of the page. I would definitely recommend checking out the parking page on the city's website. Go ahead, Carl.
A question, and I apologize for not checking the page online. Are there any mobility questions answered on this? I mean, so is it labeled mobility and parking FAQ? Because the examples there are all parking, right? So it's really a parking FAQ.
Right, that's correct. And that's because the survey or the results that Alex received off the city website, when you click Manny the Beaver to ask a question, they were all related to parking. So we came up with a parking facts page. He does monitor the department calls, the frequency of those, and our department proudly still holds the number one spot for the most phone calls.
I'm sure it does.
So
So it's labeled on the site as a parking FAQ.
yes,
Thank you.
Hey, can I add something, Carl? Just talking with Mountain Metro today in Pike Ride. So we do find that disconnect, and that with you bringing that up tonight, I think it might be worth the conversation with Alex on mobility questions, that maybe we still offer that on the website, because we have to get that out there. And we're finding that a lot of the information never talks about mobility, including the Mountain Metro site. They said they don't even have a map. They don't know where the racks are. So I think to be proactive, we'll talk with Alex to see if maybe we need to have a mobility page too, and start answering questions ahead of time.
You're stealing my next question.
Oh, okay.
Great idea.
Well, good. It was your idea. I just listen, I was listening. Thank you.
And then obviously this is a living document, so if the board has anything that they could think would be a frequently asked question, definitely let me know and we can get it to Alex and get it on there.
A big, huge thank you for putting the shuttle service on there, because that has been a major issue, I think, for folks knowing when that runs and, you know, the calendar dates and all that. So thank you.
Yep, no problem. Here's a quick snip of the current progressive parking rates where we're at. We did add flyers to all of the pay stations. They are located on the left-hand side of the machine if you're facing the machine. Those are changed out as the rates do change. So currently, for second quarter, the downtown premium area is at $4 an hour, and you can see the increases after that. Zone 2 is now at $2.50 an hour. That's the Hiawatha lot. Zone 3, we did change to a $5 all day because it was very underutilized. And even just driving down the road since the change now, and reviewing the data that comes in daily, we are seeing a lot more use down there. And bar lot did end up going up again. And I got a feeling it might do it one more time with the summer season. We've been holding pretty steady at 100%.
Could you just in a few sentences review how you determine the occupancy to get that 85%? Do you survey the cars on the street, or how do we do that? I've forgotten.
So that is done through the parking logics in the parking lots,
That's
as
correct.
well as the smarking out on the on-street.
Smart, yes, thank you.
Well, and just to clarify, that's during business hours, right? It's not a full 24-hour period.
Correct. That just monitors our paid parking hours.
Kevin, have you gotten any feedback from the chamber or merchants on the raising rates?
We've done this now just a little over a year. We had some grumblings the first go around.
Yeah.
And then very few when we kick back into summer, because we go from the winter to the summer rates. We really haven't.
Great.
I haven't. I don't know if Roy's fielded any calls that haven't made it to me yet.
It was a big issue a while.
It was, and I tell you, I am kind of shocked that in 2019, 2020, I was getting calls and emails about our pricing, and today it's just crickets. If we get a complaint, it's more about misunderstanding, and then we help them out and correct it. But it's not about the pricing at all. As a matter of fact, I believe we have one of the residents is gonna do and look, he believes the turnover is occurring now. And he got our data and he's gonna do a report for the turnover, because turnover has increased. So it's given people parking places. And even though we're still at kind of a high occupancy, I know when I go downtown, it, it depends on the day and the time, but I'm seeing a few more spaces open up a little bit earlier. So we're making progress finally. The prices are hitting a point where people think about how long they're just gonna hang out. And then the whole adjustment for the Zone 3, which is just east of Hiawatha, that adjustment we did just before the holiday, 4th of July holiday weekend, and it went from a 3% occupancy, I believe, to a 70% occupancy for $5 for the day.
Wow.
And so that kind of supports the idea of satellite parking at some point at a real low price, providing shuttles, providing bikes, e-bikes. We might be able to do something with this and get people to park outside the core.
That would be great. And are we still pursuing outside parking?
We are, there's a one, I can't talk about it yet, but there's a location that we may have a satellite spot outside the core. And then I'll bring that to everyone once if that works out.
Well, since the Fun Motel is no longer there, I've sort of been pestering some of the people in that organization. Hey, that would make a great parking lot, at least for now.
Yeah, that's a little tougher situation, was brought before. So I know they're gonna be, I believe, at one point they had someone going into her, doing something. I don't know the insides and outs of that property, but we did look at it, and it's kind of at this point past that part of it, but it doesn't mean it's totally off the table. You never know. So,
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
So here's a picture on the left of our new RV and oversized vehicle parking signs. They are a little larger, so they're able to see them driving down the road, and I'm seeing those being used a lot more, especially the larger tour buses. They are parking more down by the chamber because they do have that shuttle stop right in front of the chamber. So they're able to offload that, jump on the 36 and finish their trip into downtown. And then on the right side is a map with all the starred locations showing where those parking areas are.
What do you do when RV takes up 2 parking spaces or even parks in Hiawatha?
Hiawatha does have 2 parking spaces that are they're labeled for buses and RVs, but they can be double parked as a regular vehicle. Unfortunately, being pay by plate, as long as that license plate's in the system, they're good to go. Unless
Okay.
they're sticking out, blocking traffic, or in that core of downtown where the oversized vehicle ordinance would kick in.
Right, thank you.
Here's a picture of Park Avenue, the new asphalt, the new striping down there. If anybody hasn't had a chance to check that out, the road's nice and smooth compared to what it was early spring this year with some potholes and cracking. Here's the new parking logic sign, well, the warranted parking logic sign, the new face that was put on it. We got that installed late March and it's been operational ever since. And this is a bike rack location map that Roy, Alex, Treffry, and myself have been working on. I went out and spent the better part of a Friday morning locating all the bike racks in town, providing Alex with that list, and he put together this great map for us. And I'm not sure if this has been live on the website yet, or if we're waiting for that GIS tech.
Yeah, we have a new GIS tech coming in who will update this using their GIS skills. Alex did a great job as a temporary map, but we'll have them get it more clear and the exact locations, et cetera. So I believe that person's coming in hopefully next week or the following week.
And we did include the current Pike Ride Hub locations on here as well. Here's some pictures of the bike racks that were discussed earlier. The one on the left is the rack that was donated by Manitou Springs High School. Like I said, right on the east side of the train over here. And then the one on the right is the one that was installed at the post office. These are going to be all throughout town. These are the new the pay to park signs. They do cover, you have to pay to park, and it also advertises the text to pay, which I've been monitoring that since the end of 2021 when we dropped Park Mobile. The ease of operation for the text to pay versus downloading the app for Park Mobile, text to pay has just, it's taken off. We had 26,000 transactions in text to pay alone last month versus Park Mobile. The last report I looked at for them, I think was 9,000 for an entire month. And here's that prospect lot I was talking about. We are very proud of this. The one on the left is right at the top west side of the lot looking down. And the one on the right, our arborist actually took for me while he was up trimming those trees and the vegetation I was discussing. He did feel kind of bad because they were actively cleaning the lot up, and he did get some of the loose branches and chippings that were still being cleaned up in the picture, but we are very proud of the lot. It looks brand new.
Do we have a kiosk there?
We do not. That is a permit only lot.
Okay,
And here's some Hiawatha update photos. The top left photo is the new parking that we were able to add with e-bike tours and rentals moving down to the subway area. Top right, we did relocate the Pike Ride Hub at Hiawatha to accommodate the EV chargers. The bottom left is the honk reservation area, and the bottom right does show the construction of the new EV chargers. And as Roy said, they are done and live as of today, so I definitely recommend checking those out.
Kevin, can I add, since we're on Hiawatha, a couple things?
Yep.
Okay, so just so the group knows, right now, the staff is working on the floodplain requirements. So that's in process. And once the Hiawatha Gardens Task Force gets those results, then they will move to construction drawings. So that's one part. Two, for Hiawatha, we are looking and soliciting bids for the roof and the building to make it look better. The roof doesn't look quite as good as it can, plus a little bit is coming off where it can cause a leak. So we are getting bids on that to do that. I'm also looking for possible hail damage anyway with all city buildings to get our roofs done. And then the side of the building itself, just trying to make it look nicer, and including possible gutters for the rain and to get that water away from the base and the foundation of the building. As Kevin mentioned, the EV chargers are running. And then there's a public engagement event scheduled for August 17th to discuss the mobility hub desires. So if you're interested, of course, you can attend and get your input in the Hiawatha building.
Is that part of the overall public patio discussion?
Yes, I believe from Dole, that was the engagement of the whole mobility hub itself and getting input.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's the start of some more input sessions.
thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks, Kevin.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Roy. He's going to discuss the smarking information.
All right, so we use our smarking to try to determine our capacity, and as you can tell, you can see our capacity line, and we are busy, no doubt about it. The one thing that, as you look there, and what I noticed, ignore the July 17th, because that's wasn't all of the month yet, so it looks low. It didn't calculate all through July. So as we look at the July period, 4th of July was very busy. But as you can see, going from May, June, it got a little busier there. But as we increased our summer rates, we started to see a trend down a little bit on occupancy, which is good because we were still at 100% and over that. The one thing it doesn't account for is when people leave a little early and have time on their spot. And sometimes there's a little crossover, but that's okay. That little bit is just a small percentage. But this is OS1, which is the downtown area in Cannon. All right, if you want to go to the next one, and if you have questions, yeah, we have a question here.
A
Go ahead, Carl.
question just for clarification. So the occupancy percentage, is that peak for that day or is that average for the day?
It's peak.
Okay.
Yeah, peak occupancy. So an average, it's harder to get the average, but we do look at the peak because, of course, an average could drop down, and that means that 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the day, it could be 180% or something. So we use the peak average as our guide. So that's a peak throughout.
And I just like to add on there that, especially this time of year, we would take that average, the peak, because with the summer rainstorms, that first crack of thunder, town pretty much vacates, and that would just plummet us and give us false hope.
I guess I'm a little confused by seeing the capacity line, straight line, and seeing the peaks above the capacity line. How can we,
Lower that?
oh, no, I'm just trying to get my mind around that.
Yes. So again, there's some crossover with people leaving earlier and then people taking that spot.
So you dip below capacity.
Yeah, it's possible these numbers would be a little bit lower because of that crossover. So they're a little bit, nothing's ever 100% accurate anyway, but we do believe it's about 95% of what we need to see what our occupancy is. The biggest thing is going to be to see our trend. And if this line continues to go down, that's really what we're looking for. The closer we can get to the 100%, the happier we'll be. And eventually, if we get to the 80 or 85 to 95, or was it 80? What is it?
85 to 92.
92. That's really our ultimate goal. So that's what we're going to be tracking, and we can, over several months, we can keep showing if we're making this progress and start seeing that trend going down, but it takes time. And we started at a pretty low rate. So that 25 or 50 cents increase is going to take a little while, but it also then is less shocking to people. And so it's kind of that balance of the patience. But the good news is that if you go to the next slide on OS1, you see the duration. And because of the increase in price, you have the 1 hour duration of total use. And then you go to 2 hours, it's higher, but then it starts dropping in the third hour, the fourth hour. And people are deciding to move on, which opens up a parking spot. And then they get off the road. So that again, and this is only one component. The one thing I'll say over and over again, and you all know this, but this is a one component of our parking congestion problem is some control of the parking spaces. And the other part is going to be the EV bikes, bicycles in general, and our shuttle service and our parking locations if we get those outside the core. And we start putting all this together. And there's probably more things, but those are just some of the things we've been kind of working on right now. So then if we go to OS2, and OS1 again was the downtown area. OS2, again, above capacity based on use. And Kevin, I do believe we did make an adjustment in OS1 and OS2 parking stalls. We moved some of the OS2 into OS1 and made Hiawatha its own. So that did change a little bit of these lines from the past. So is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So again, we saw starting going down in June when prices were changed, we started seeing a little decline in the occupancy. So if we go to the next one, then because of the pricing in Hiawatha, people stayed longer, which is what we kind of wanted in that parking lot. So instead of going downtown, hopefully they're parking there, spending more time downtown and enjoying themselves. Yes, Carl.
So the duration numbers, is that for the month or what time frame?
Yeah, for every month. So at the bottom, they have the month or the parts of the month that are.
I guess
um,
I was asking
oh.
about this.
Yeah,
chart.
so this is for that same time frame. If you go back to the other one, go back to OS, this one. So starting in May 15th through early July, that is the same
So 2 months.
data.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the average duration, it looks like around 3 and change versus OS1, it was 2 and change.
Yes,
So
which it's working then, right?
it's working.
Yeah,
yes.
that's
working.
exciting.
Perfect. Yep.
That they're saying, hey, wait a minute, and then maybe next time, hey, you know what, instead of parking downtown, because I want to spend 5 hours in Manitou, then they go to Hiawatha. And then if we go to OS3, that is our, the lot, east of the Chase Bank. And that's where we changed the price. What's interesting, the price was our normal fee per hour, before, probably like the end of June. And then that weekend, just before July 4th, I had them change it, and Kevin and his crew went out there and knocked them out in a few hours. And as you can see, we went from the low capacity, I guess it's about 10%, to 6 or 55 or something percent occupancy because of the cheaper price. And then you don't have to worry about it. You park there and you can spend all day in Manitou if you want to.
Sorry, I'm a data guy.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
So on the duration chart, so if it's a flat fee, how are we calculating duration
Well,
if it's an all day?
yeah, so that's true since this is calculated for the whole period. So this may not be accurate.
So it's skewed towards. the
Yeah,
previous.
because we only did like a few weeks, 2 weeks maybe into July.
All one day.
But I mean, so someone could pay the all day fee and park for 30 minutes.
Correct.
You'll have, so that number might be inflated. So just, we'll take that.
Yeah,
with a grain of
this
salt.
data is probably, since we did that, is probably not very accurate.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
But visually, I was amazed at the cars parked on the side of the road. Never saw that in that part of town. So that was exciting to see for sure.
But I mean, even on this chart,
Yes.
that's a lower rate, and here it looks like your average is like 4 hours and change, right? So
Sure.
that's definitely showing people are adapting their behavior.
True. It'll be interesting how this continues on and what it does. And we even thought if we need to entice them even more, do we go to $3? And that, again, it's not about pricing them too much. It's pricing them right and getting them to say, hey, it's worth to go $3 here and walk into town than to drive into town for that premium spot.
So just one comment on that. I mean, for me, I think giving them a break and getting them in a shuttle or getting them to ride an e-bike or, to me, that makes a lot of sense, but if that's just gonna be, they're still gonna drive and around downtown to find a spot, we shouldn't go any lower.
Okay, that's a valid point too. Probably we do have to have a limit on how low we go. And then over time, of course, hopefully as e-bikes and shuttles become better, we can definitely push even more cars out of here and have more of those. So we're kind of in that transition period where there's going to be some give and take on how, the cars coming in versus not, because the last thing we want them to do is keep driving in the middle of town. So we're just going to have to, that'll be just some balancing act. And so we'll have to keep reviewing that and just making sure we don't go too far in the other direction. So good point.
And on that point, Roy, that was part of our shop talk down in the conference. Another community, it was similar to ours, I can't remember where it was, where they overpriced their outside core parking. And the decision was made, we need to make it free, and that ended up flooding the area. Just as you can see, as paid parking began to expand when we moved into the city, we had El Paso RPP request. We're getting Canyon. People are still looking for that free parking or the best that they can get. So to Roy's point, we don't want to drop it too low to where we're flooding the area. We want to be able to manage it better.
Can I ask about these graphs? Is the y-axis, is that percentage? Or is that number of spots? Because I see on OS1, the capacity is at 100, but for OS3, capacity is shown at like 65.
I go back to not that one, to those. Is that what you're talking about, these?
No, I'm talking about the,
Oh, go to those. That's percent of occupancy.
okay, so 100% is capacity.
Yes.
And then if you go down to number 2, capacity is shown as 150 or 145. And then on the last one, capacity is shown as like 65. So
Yes. So basically that's the, that 100% is the number of parking spaces in what we put in the system. So if there's 100 parking spaces, that's what we put in the program. And then that's that 100%. Does that make, is that what you're asking? Or Kevin, go ahead.
So the software builds the graph based on the number of spaces that we input into that area. So OS3, we have 64 parking spaces. That's why it built that graph to 70.
so that's number of spaces and not percentage.
Correct.
Okay, and I think the first one was a percentage. So OS2 and OS3 are showing number of parking spots, whereas OS1 is showing percentage.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So OS3 may be incorrectly clicked to show numbers of users versus percentage.
Either way works. I think OS2 and OS3 both are showing number of spaces and not
Okay.
percentages. And let me just say, I love the ability to have this data and to then start digging into it. I think to the point Carl made before about the time of day, I assume we've got more than a data point per day, and this is a filtered view of it. I'm also a data guy, so it might be really fascinating to start digging into daily trends. Then, of course, like Kevin said, you have to coordinate it with weather and other things that might be going on in town. But it looks like there's all kinds of data in here, and it looks like the ability to adjust our parking rates is giving us those levers that we thought it would. And so I'm really pleased to see that ability. And I'm excited to see the other part of that, which was the promise that we'll have these progressive parking rates, and then we're going to start seeing the benefits, the specific benefits that tie those to the increased parking rates.
Yeah, so example, the paving we're doing, the striping, the curbs, the extra equipment for the parking machines. Yeah, we will continue to funnel money from this enterprise to look at how we support that. And that includes the Pike Ride program that we're expansion. So the big thing with that enterprise this first year, and I think you all recall that meeting when we were talking about building that fund balance up on the enterprise. You know, you have to have a safety net. If we have a real bad year, you know, I hope not ever a COVID again, but you never know. We still need to have that safeguard, that safety net of funds. So the first goal was that to build that fund balance up and then do these. So the shuttles, the trams are paid by the enterprise. So we are trying to use some funds, but then also being a little careful right now. And as we build that up, then hopefully, and my goal is we continue to use these funds to help improve mobility as a whole. And then towards the end of the meeting, I'll talk about the board and maybe what we can do as plans going into the future on making some of those a reality of how to use the money and that bigger vision. So I'll cover that at the end of the meeting, but yeah, good points. Thank you.
So two things. I know I've asked a lot of questions, so I want to pause and go on the record and just say thanks to Kevin and staff for doing such a fantastic job. This has been really good. But I did want to piggyback on Corey's comment, right? You know, I think having some additional data points would be really interesting just to make sure that we're not trying to optimize for, you know, like, hey, there's a 30-minute window during the day we're at capacity and the rest of the day it's empty or something, right? So just making sure we have additional data that reflects what happens during the whole period and not just a peak period.
I have one question. The church parking, great win on that. Excellent. Are we renting that?
We are, this is a short term right now. We're going through the end of September.
Wonderful. One thing that was not in the presentation is the stagecoach parking.
That is fairly new, was brought to my attention last Friday. Well, no, 2 Fridays before that, I did see it, but other staff have seen it. It appears that the old Stagecoach building has chosen a parking vendor to manage their 15-20 stall parking lot. And I believe everybody's looked into it and there was nothing in the code that said that they could not do that.
That's
That's
correct.
not us, though.
No,
Okay, it looks like it's us, that sign.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
nothing in code that prevents
Okay,
them
great.
to run in their parking lot for
Well-
parking, and it's not on the street, so it's a private.
No
area.
problem, just like the Iron Springs too. So we're-
Correct.
Right. Great, thanks.
Question. How is the COG doing on planning for peak season? And we're very close to that point in terms of limiting the exit from the lots, from their lots down, so we don't have a situation where Ruxton gets all jammed up past the Catholic Church. Where are we on that?
So they're continuing to use, you know, they do have a reservation system for their parking lot. The hope as is this the second year now they've been back up or third?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that when the trains come back, that because people will go to the snack bar and hang out, that it does stagger that somewhat. We are watching it. I do think personally, since I try to drive up there often and I try to get into the log jams, I try to get into that backup purposely to see how bad it gets. Because there's nothing like experiencing it versus just, you know,
Sure.
hearing about it. It seems like it's a little better today than it used to be. Ruxton as a whole has improved since we took off paid parking off Ruxton. But there are some moments where, yeah, there's definitely some cars that all decide to leave at the same time almost, and you get a little bit of backing up. I don't think I've seen it past the church yet. Kevin, have you by chance going through there at all?
I have not. I will say though, that from the roundabout west, it seems that we're getting more backups from Ruxton west towards Park Avenue and Serpentine. I've
Oh, it's
definitely,
busier over there for
I've
sure.
definitely
Yeah.
been stuck in that.
So we'll continue to talk with them, and you know, one idea was, of course, that queuing type light like they use at some of the highways now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Access to the highway
yeah.
on the freeways.
So that's still something we'll probably bring up again with them. We're also, when we do the Ruxton area, that project, which is gonna be down the road. We're looking at how can we better facilitate the incline users and not walking on the street. I mean, there's a lot of congestion. It's a busy area for sure. So the whole thing's being looked at, and we'll keep monitoring that situation. If it seems to get worse, I think they probably hit their peak season with July 4th. It's normally really busy for them, but this is,
August is usually.
yeah, August is pretty packed. So they're in it now, I guess, right? So we're gonna see some of the results. Is it working or not? And if not, we'll have to have some further discussions on maybe how this can be improved. But they're pretty open to at least talking, which is good. We're at a good place with them.
Yeah.
So,
Good. Well, the concern obviously is the fire access issue.
yeah.
We look at 2424 Garden of the Gods, and that's gone through various iterations, and
Yeah, you're right. So we'll keep monitoring it. And sometimes it takes a little time to see if some of their plans are going to work. If we feel like they're not, and so it's a little harder on data there because we just don't, we can get some data from the COG, the little they provide, but the rest has to be our ability to do that. And, good you brought that up, because I do have a new device, a box. We do have those radar speed limit sign things, if you've seen those. But now I have a stealth box, and it just gets put on a telephone pole and will count cars, will do everything I need it to do. So that may be a good place to kind of see and get a new update on the vehicles coming down. And it even gives you maybe the time of day, stuff like that. I'm still playing with it. We just got it a couple weeks ago.
that would be great because you got data and you can just lay it out. Say,
Yeah.
"Hey, guys, here's the data." They're
Yeah.
not gonna argue
Does-
with that.
And that could be something maybe, I get together and bring to the board or something too, to take a look at, because I know we have some people who love data.
Does the box count more than cars,
It has some different abilities to it. Yeah.
pedestrians and other
Yes.
modes?
Yes, it does.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
we can maybe do a whole mobility count. That's what I'm getting. All right. Let me see as I keep working on this and learning the best use. We'll see what kind of data we can get out of that. It's a good idea.
I've got a comment and a question about the Pike Ride stations. First, I'm really excited to see that expansion. So happy to hear that that's proceeding successfully. And especially having that one at Lulu's right in front is a big step forward. So maybe want to acknowledge the planning department and the work that was done to make that happen. I'm interested in expanding it more. I think Pike Ride is a way that we can reduce congestion in town, and would like to see some more Pike Ride stations further west. And in particular, I'm wondering if we've got information about discussions related to Springs Park and a possibility of Pike Ride stations on Ruxton, which is close to where I live. But more generally, just wondering what is our plan for expansion and how are we approaching that?
So part of the discussion with Kevin, and right now I have Kevin really working with Pike Ride on this. But is we're looking at locations possibly at Iron Spring Chateau in the old bus stop area. We're looking at a section on the island from Park and Manitou Avenue. In that center island is a place they said is actually a great place to put Pike Ride. It's a big safety zone for pedestrians, but also it has enough room maybe to put Pike Ride. So that would help your Soda Springs connection. And then further west, we're talking about, and this was Kevin's great idea on Schmichny lot, maybe there's a parking spot there that is really not usable. And maybe that can be a Pike Ride spot as well. So those are kind of the other areas we're considering right now and how we can maybe get those going. So.
And apologies if I missed it, but how quickly can we expand? Like, can we do 10 in a year? Probably not, but.
Well, we're expanding with one. Right now, we're just trying to make that decision where it'll go, because that one's been approved. The others we'll have to discuss, and if we have the funds right now available to do it. But we are in discussions with that right now with Pike Ride. So and I think there was, what did I say, 3 other ones? So 4 total, Kevin, or 5?
If I remember correctly, they suggested Lover's Lane on the backside of Wichita
Oh,
lot.
yeah, that's another one.
The Island, Schmishny lot, and Iron Springs, so 4.
Okay, and then the Shriver one, we're talking with them of possibly putting that where the old bus stop was by the sidewalk out there, and we double checked for space, and it would be okay for space wise to be able to put it there and have more visibility.
And we also were discussing the possibility of pulling out the one in Hiawatha to the bus stop on the east side of Memorial Park, since that stop is no longer being used.
Correct, yes, we're gonna move. Oh, that was something I need to talk to Mountain Metro about, so I'll remind, thanks, Kevin. Move that, since we don't use that side anymore on the Memorial with that nice new bus stop and shelter. The idea is moving that to the other side, so there's more for people to get shelter. And then put a Pike right on that side instead of in Hiawatha, where there's a bit more traffic and a little more hazardous conditions in that area, so yeah, so we are kind of figuring out what we can do this year. But the goal right now, and Kevin and I are totally believe that we need to keep pushing for this and start to build the want for it or the understanding of it. I mean, you'd have to get it going, right? Yeah, and that's important. We get it out there. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So kind of, got to put the in a sense, maybe the cart before the horse initially, but in order to get the cart out there and finally get the horse hooked up right, you got to get it out there. So we're going to keep pushing for those.
And Roy, when you say waiting for approval, like who approves it? So Pike Ride has to say yes, and then what approvals do you need on this side?
Well, on our side, it's going to be through our enterprise budget, and if we have the funding and are comfortable in spending the funding to get these here, because there's a cost initially for installation and all that. So we're working on how much of that budget we can spend this year and still always maintain that safety net for now. But things are going well this summer, and I think our budget's looking good, and it should be able to support more as we move forward.
So you're able to make decisions throughout the year based on how the fund is doing.
Yes, we would definitely will let council know what our plans are and let them see it. And of course, if they have input, would love to hear their input and thoughts, but yeah, we'll be continuing to push that along.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question.
Yes, sir.
And this is probably a Hiawatha Gardens type question, but Carl came up with a really good idea of.
Bill, it's very hard to hear you.
Carl came up with a really good idea of using the Chase Bank building as a bus turnaround spot. And the question obviously is, where are we with the Chase Bank? And I don't know whether you want to talk about it, but
We're closer. If you notice, some things were being pulled off today. We're getting very close.
I didn't notice that. No, I saw the lights back on.
Yeah, no, we're getting closer. I will tell you that with discussions with Mountain Metro, and they did some studies of the turning radius, and probably won't work.
Oh, really?
Really.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're not certain that's gonna work for them there at all. So it might be that the bus stop stays where it's at. It doesn't mean for sure we're done with that as a turnaround, but right now with their studies, we had them go out there and look at it and give us, they have all the numbers for that, and they're like, we don't think that's gonna be a turnaround location. We don't think it's gonna work. So,
Even with some demo of,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying that won't change, because, I guess there's always, where there's a will, there might be a way, but currently a good chance it's not going to be available for a turnaround for them,
Okay.
but we'll keep talking. We're good at keep.
Appreciate the update.
Yes. We're pretty stubborn, so we keep bringing it up.
Smaller buses, more frequent, smaller buses.
Yeah, so good. Let me go over a few things with you all then, if you don't mind, or you have questions still on the presentation, or I'll do a deputy report on a few items.
I have comments on the financials, but I'm assuming that's a different agenda item.
Let's move ahead. Let's go to the next item,
Okay.
which is new business. Do we have any new business?
Unless you want me to go over am I on there? to talk at all?
You're,
Okay, I can.
you're on.
All
the
right, so y'all.
reports, I think.
Okay. Do you want me to go over the deputy? That's
Yeah.
kind of new business, new stuff, maybe?
You can call whatever,
Okay.
whatever you want to do, Roy, is
All right,
fine.
is everybody good with that? Okay, so so a little bit on the Ruxton Avenue. We are just having bi-weekly meetings with CSU, and it's just talking about line design. There is no chance of construction this year. So at this point, it's just a lot of getting together with them and trying to figure out. It's gonna be a tough line to take care of up there on Ruxton. So just so you're aware, we're not very far, and we're working with CSU on that project. The Creek Walk Trail Phase 3. The third section has been poured on the trail. It's 85% complete. And now they're working on the creek to the chamber area. So the back of the chamber is being worked on. It's going well, and we're probably only weeks away from completion. So that will be ready to go for all the mobility.
Can I ask a clarification question? So I noticed that they tore up the section right behind the pool, the little S curve.
Yes.
Was that, I don't recall that being part of the plan, and it's for some people that live in Crystal Hills and Crystal Park, that's like a major kind of mobility connection. And the detour is, a bit long. And so just curious what the time frame is for that.
Yeah. So just to let you know why we tore that up, it's not ADA compliant. The grade was too steep. So we are fixing the ADA requirements for that so that everyone can use it. And that was just started. I'm thinking it was this week, but it could have been Friday. And so it's moving along as well. And it's part of the idea that we're couple weeks out to get it all done. So they are working heavily on that one right now, though. And we had a challenge there at one point, though. So we had a little bit of a stall. So we moved through that with CSU, and now we're back on track with getting that done as soon as possible. But a few weeks and you'll have all that trail, which would be amazing for mobility for sure. Creek Walk Trail phases 4 and 5. CenturyLink is working out there on some undergrounding for communications for that. And that's the part by going past the chamber and going to the bank. So that's that area. So we're already starting to do some things there. We have to get some environmental clearances and right away from CDOT clearances. So that's all being worked out right now. So that'll be the next stretch of the Creek Walk. I think I already talked about Hiawatha Gardens. One of the big things they're working is about that floodplain and how we can move forward with the floodplain requirements. I do think we're heading in the right direction with some positive news, and that will be presented first to the group to discuss.
We have a meeting tomorrow.
Yes. So that's moving along as well. So with the chargers there, I think that's exciting. We went waiting a long time since 2019 to see some chargers. Fiber optic project. If you didn't know, we have a conduit now all the way that stretches from LaFon all the way to Serpentine Roundabout. So at some point, we will be looking at how do we get high-speed internet put through. And that's being looked at and discussed, but we do have the conduit now to do the project. Fire training tower construction, not necessarily a mobility thing, but just to update the group on that project up there by the water plant is moving along. It's taken a little while. The weather was not cooperative. As you all know, the new Mesa tank, we got approvals for that. So that's going to be moving along real quick here as we start trying to push that going into next year. Serpentine Bridge, we are looking at what repairs need to be done on Serpentine Bridge. And then we're also looking at that area for paving in the future because there's also going to be a creek walk area. So there's some things we got to work out with that Serpentine. Yep.
Question, very briefly, is the park at the Serpentine corner ever gonna get opened again?
The
County,
the Rainbow Falls.
Rainbow Falls.
So there's a rock issue. And it's not going to be an easy fix. So I do not know. I know it won't be open this year. And I'm not sure when they'll reopen at this point. The last thing they told us is they're trying to figure out how they're going to take care of this problem. So it's closed until they figure that out.
Yeah, well, I can make a phone call to Todd. And pester him a bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. I hear about the rocks up there on the ledge there. So,
Okay, thank you.
let's see, Midland Pony, what is that one? Oh, so a little bit of mobility action. We did get the CDBG grant for Pawnee area in Midland. And so we're going to be doing some ADA sidewalks out there and fixing that whole area. So it's part of the low income area that we were able to get CDBG money. And so we'll be doing fixing all the ADA sidewalks by the school and going up in some of those neighborhoods, and also just fixing a lot of those sidewalks that are crumbling out in that area. And again, CDBG grants are limited to certain locations, so we can only use them in those areas. I think I talked about the drams. As you know, we're doing a lot of paving, and I believe I told you 14 roads were paved. So that's been a good project. The incline is doing their thing, and so far the disruptions to people are minimal, or residents who live in the area. All in all, it's working pretty well. So that's been good. And that's most of the projects that are happening in town. And then the only other thing, Bill, if you want me to talk about is unless we have other things we got to do first, is walkable city and maybe things we can do going into next year as a group. Do you want me to wait to the end for that?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to propose that that we start looking. One of the books I read since 2019 is called Walkable City. Of course, that means rideable and less cars and more mobility. And what I'd like to use that as our kind of our guide going into next year, and make it a high priority that we use that to think about how do we make Manitou Springs, the downtown core and area and outside area, more walkable, friendly, and for bikes. And how do we reduce the cars? So like, for example, some of the categories here is put cars in their place. Okay, so that's like one of the chapters. Mix the uses, get the parking right, let transit work, protect the pedestrian, welcome bikes, shape the spaces, plant trees, make friendly, unique faces, and pick your winners. And so if we went through a process every meeting and we pick maybe a couple chapters, I would get you all the books so you can kind of use that too and read up on it and then come up with your ideas. I think we should really figure out how by next fall we can go to council and present an idea of a walkable city for Manitou Springs and start really having a discussion if we want to make change. We can do a lot of little things, and I think we made a lot of progress, but I think it's time for that big discussion. How do we want to make it friendly for pedestrians? Cars, you start with a walk, you go to your car, you get out of the car, you have to walk again. Or you start from your walk, you get to a bike, you get off your bike, you have to walk again. The city has to be friendly for pedestrians. And so how do we do that and incorporate all these ideas? And I think this is a perfect group that can get together and come up with a good plan. And Dole and I already did some research on grants, and we found a grant that probably can help us as well. So not only come up with the vision, but then say, here's money, and maybe even get some expert help as we need. So we're going to be looking at the possibility of trying to get a grant to help us also achieve these, some of these goals, and then move forward with that. So that's my question to the group. Or is this something that interests us as the map board? Should I start planning going into fall or when we get going full again here after we do a fall meeting, just to go, and that could be the start of it. And I can get something together and we can start, get the books to you ahead of time. So you have a couple months to kind of start getting a head start. And then we start having this discussion and get some great ideas for Manitou. So that's my proposal.
Yes.
Great proposal, Roy. Thank you. Okay, well, let's go around and Rolf,
What's this now?
how do you feel about what Roy has just proposed?
No, it's absolutely excellent idea and that should be our primary focus. And as a group, I would love to be part of that group. So yes.
Carl?
I would endorse Roy's proposal.
Cory?
I'm highly interested in the topic. I remain confused and concerned about the role of this group, how we work with council, how we work with staff. Are we going to have meetings again? All of those kind of things. So I have some existential questions, but from getting specific on the topic, it sounds like a positive direction and I would be pleased to be involved in progress in that direction.
Can I answer just that question? Yes, we would have meetings again. And we would make this a high priority and we have a focus and we would work on this. And then the goal would be towards the end of, or wherever, whenever we get done with this and we're satisfied and we can go towards council. And then the idea is we do go to council meeting and we present the thoughts. And I would be okay with however Bill wants to manage this with the team on 1 or 2 board members who help present with staff or however we manage that. But I think that would be excellent to do.
Yeah. Joy, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still on.
How do you feel about
Well, I
Roy's
I
proposal?
guess where I am with it is we are now over 2 hours on this meeting. And I think to respect staff, we need to really work at how are we going to make these meetings not go to 3 or 4 hours as they have been. And that's just an aside. I think, Roy, it's a good idea to start looking at walkable cities. I think we also have to focus on the demographics in Manitou about who can actually physically ride bikes, who are not disabled but can't walk very far, and who need, we're doing a lot with the trams, we're doing a lot with the different things that we're doing, but we have to look at the full picture, not just making it walkable for certain segments of our population. So I'm certainly in support of it, Roy. I think it's a good idea. I would like the name and title of the book because I do a lot of digital reading. So I can check into that. So thank you for having this idea.
Thank you, Joy. And is Bob on?
I don't think so.
I am.
Oh, he
Oh,
is.
you
There
are.
you
How
are.
do you feel about Roy's proposal?
First of all, folks, sorry, I've been on the entire call, but I was as an outsider, so I couldn't figure out how to get in. And finally, I got let in as a panelist. But I have heard 90% of the meeting tonight. I just want you to know that. So apologies. I love it. I think it's great. And Joy, great point. But I mean, there'd be ways I would think to accomplish both goals. Still take care of residents that maybe don't fit the walkable profile. I don't think I know it doesn't mean just walking. But anyway, no, I think it sounds awesome. And actually, I just ordered that book on Amazon. So thank you, Roy.
And I'm a yes as well. So yes, Roy.
So yeah, just the comment on Joy's response. Totally the reason why we would get together for those type of in-depth questions and how do we have inclusion for everyone. So there's definitely no one answer. And that's the challenge. That's why we need the brains here to think about every corner and how are we making this just more walkable. And Bob, you're right. It's not just the walk, but we all walk eventually. And so it has to be an important part of that puzzle. And then bikes are kind of next, or what's next for depending on the age and the abilities of folks. And that would be shuttles or other methods. So that's really what the discussions will be about. What do we need in Manitou, and coming together to then start to move forward on maybe some of these solutions. So sounds good then. Thank you. I will proceed then and move forward, Bill, if that's okay.
There is a strong, I didn't hear a no at all. So
Okay.
it's
All right.
all yes.
All right. Thank you.
So thank you. Okay, next item of business. Let's skip over to board correspondence. Does anybody have anything they wish to offer? Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to apologize again for arriving at the meeting late. And I just wanted to make the comment that I kind of live off my calendar, and I had a calendar invite for 6 o'clock that I think was sent out by Kevin originally as a repeating meeting, or that's how it showed up on my calendar. And so I would request, I mean, it's my fail. I didn't read the agenda closely enough, but I had 6 in my mind, and that's what came up on my calendar. With that in mind, I wonder if the comments that I provided on the minutes from the previous meeting were incorporated. I sent those just before 5 o'clock to Roy and Kevin. Did those get incorporated?
I was in a meeting till 5 for the water tank. And so just prior to coming here, I kind of glanced at them. I know there was if I get this right, there were 2 meetings that were not approved, I think. Was that one of the things? And
So the first error was that I was shown as absent in the last meeting, and I was
yes.
present. And also the minutes showed that we approved the previous meeting's minutes, which I think did not happen. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we haven't approved at least 2 meetings worth of minutes prior before, what was it, February? So I think we
Yes.
didn't approve October or November minutes.
Well, my suggestion is that we ask the city clerk or somebody to go through and see what was approved and what wasn't approved. And we'll put on the next agenda those items that need to be dealt with then.
okay.
And
Does that work?
it's getting long, and my memory might be starting to fade, but I would appreciate getting those minutes that haven't been approved. We should get those sent out beforehand so we could review them and approve them as best as possible.
Okay, so Kevin, if you can do a review of the council sessions and see, or not council, map, and make sure if it was approved or not, and anything that's not, then get those out to the board for review, make sure we blind copy them, and then they can take a look. And which was another comment I think was made, but we need a blind copy all emails and not get a meeting.
I can do that.
going. Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
And again, apologizing if I missed this already, but did we get an update about the mobility and parking director position? Was that already discussed?
It's, I'm working on it. And so I don't have anything to bring to the board yet. But believe me, you'll get an email as soon as, so there's some negotiations going on at this point.
Okay, so the position was posted and some interviews have taken place, but you're,
Correct. And I do want to, Corey, you and Bob Border both said you would be willing to do that. I flipped a coin. Bob won for the interview process. He helped us with the interviews. Currently now we're in discussions, so I don't have anything else to give you on that at that point because we don't know yet.
okay, that's fine.
But I will, I promise you, let you know email wise once that occurs.
Yeah,
Good question. Thanks for bringing that up. I totally.
I'd appreciate hearing any updates as they proceed. So thank you.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. And thanks for offering to help too. I do appreciate that. And Bob, you as well, appreciate you helping with the interviews.
Roy, thank you. I do want, just for the good of the group, I want to congratulate Roy and the city on putting together such an amazing pool. I mean, they did a fantastic job of, I mean, there were so many qualified candidates. So just big kudos to you, Roy, and everybody that did all that.
Thank you, Bob.
Great. Any further board correspondence from anybody? Yeah. Rolf.
Okay, so scooters. I believe that we should move towards scooters, allowing them, possibly going to Hiawatha. And with the GPS on the scooters, they shut down when they're not supposed to be in a particular place. So it can be narrowed down to just Manitou Avenue and El Paso to be going on. And then they would be a hub. They would only be allowed to park in Hiawatha. They wouldn't be able to turn them off anywhere else. So that would eliminate the fear of scooters being left on sidewalks and stuff. So I think that is something that we need to honestly think about. They are used in every city now. And I think they would be a great advantage for us. So I would like to say that. Second comment I'd like to make is advertising. Mountain Metro is free, and I certainly wish we had signs. Maybe the highway sign even saying Mountain Metro is free for the summer. We could also possibly advertise in the bulletin, use humor about saying, try it once. You can go anywhere in Colorado Springs for free right now. Do your part. Transit is cool or whatever. Use humor. Possibly advertising in the paper, using signs, maybe the chamber sign across the street, something that would just be the first advertising thing we could do for the next few months. And then in the future, we could have another campaign on that. So that's all I have.
Hey, if I could jump on that, this is Bob.
Yeah.
Rolf, I love that comment. I mean, that actually would be an opportunity for us to get publicity. Like Manitou is so all in on supporting this, like an easy, maybe I didn't hear you say this, maybe you did, but the banner, that they hang across from Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I don't know, Roy, that would be pretty cool to take the lead on that and just promote the heck out of it. And, I don't know. I think that's an awesome idea, Rolf.
Thanks, Bob. Carl, you have anything?
I have a comment back on agenda item 8, the year-to-date transaction revenue report. So whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah, well, now's the time.
All right. So it's page 35 of 37, I believe, in the packet. There's the charts showing the year-to-date parking revenue for 2023. So just a couple of minor comments. So one, I believe on the year-to-date 2023 chart, the far right bar is mislabeled as bar lot, and that should be total revenue. And then the second comment, and I say this very respectfully, but I think these are the year-to-date 2022 is mislabeled because that's really 2022 12-month revenue and not 6-month revenue. And so we're comparing apples to oranges, and it makes it look like our 2023 revenue is $1 million behind when it's really not. We're ahead. And so just maybe more accurately labeling these charts to reflect the data or updating them to match, the time frame so that we can do a comparison. And then finally, a question. So, and maybe this is influenced by the year 12-month versus the 5 or 6 month numbers, but the citations went from 26% to 14%. Do we have any ideas of why or what's driving that? Because that's a pretty big change.
Roy,
I'll let Kevin answer that one.
Kevin?
I'm sorry, Carl, I was pulling that page up. Can you repeat that?
So the question is about the change in citation. So the pie charts showing the citations accounted for 26% of 2022 revenue, and for 2023 it says 14%. And I realize that the data behind those charts is probably 12-month versus 5 or 6, but it's a fairly major change in citation percentage. And so just curious, like I said, what's driving that reduction in citation revenue?
That's a very good question because citation revenue is actually up with active collections. Versus the year to year. If you look down at the page below that, where we've got the 2022 information and the 2023 information, citations for May, because that's how far this one goes through, was 45,000 that was collected. And in May of 2022, it was 35,000. So the only thing that I can think why the change like that is the on street and the Hiawatha are larger pieces of the pie this year.
Yeah, I was going to speculate that the progressive
I
parking
think it has to do with
changes,
those rates.
it's a bigger pie overall, but yet a smaller percentage, even though it's a larger. So it's just these charts, Yeah, I think there's some things we could do to maybe represent this more accurately. Just so we're reporting in an accurate fashion to the public.
Hey, real quick, Kevin, sounds like it might been the old Excel form. Remember, we had initially an old form that was coming out with some wrong dates and then it was corrected. And I wonder if that was the old form used.
It might have been, because I
Okay.
remember the typo that Carl pointed out, me and you
Yes.
did live.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Okay. So you might want to check on the latest Excel
yeah.
form you're using. And then what we'll do, Kevin, can you get that revised and then just blind copy everybody so they have the real numbers and take a look at it?
Yep.
Okay, we'll do that.
Just to follow on that, if it's not a lot of work, it might be interesting to look at the total number of citations and total number of instances of parking. And what comes to my mind is we're making a lot of improvements on the ease of use of the kiosks. And I'll just reflect that I've heard from lots of people visiting like, oh, it's really confusing. I can't figure it out. I believe that the number of citations will probably go down as we improve and make our parking system easier to understand.
Yes.
And that would be a great trend to see. If the overall pot's getting bigger, but people are getting smarter and the number of citations is lower, that would be probably a good trend that we'd like to see. So
Yeah,
if
good
that
point.
data is easy to get, that might be useful to look at.
Kevin, is that something that you can get easily or is that?
Yeah, Flex, that's actually on my homepage where it tracks citations
Okay.
versus transactions.
See if you can get something together on that too. And,
Okay.
yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I like it.
Great. Corey, do you have anything? Addition?
I went first, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I will say this, Corey, we apologize. You're right. It said 6 PM on that calendar. I noticed it today too, and I was like, I thought it was at 5. I called Kevin. So I think it was the old standard thing was still on the calendar and that's why. So totally our fault and we apologize.
When I did get down here at 3 to make sure that the room was ready, I did have Judy change it. She did say it should send out an updated invite.
Okay.
I didn't get an
So-
update, but the agenda said 5 o'clock and I didn't read it carefully enough. So I take responsibility for that.
So the plan is that we're going to be at 5 o'clock from now on.
I think 5 o'clock works for us. Even with the longer meeting today, it's only 7:30.
Right.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
Hey, guys,
Okay.
before we sign off, quick comment.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, hey, so much earlier in the program, Kevin, congrats on your attendance at that convention and all of that. I'm wondering, I don't recall seeing anything on social media, and this is more of a communications question, but it speaks to the importance of, every component of our city working together. Was there any promotion of that? And if not, maybe think about that in the future, because, again, you should be tooting our horn, and the fact that, we're leaders in many ways. I mean, that would help so much with just our community. And I know there'd be some people that would comment negatively or make a joke, but for the most part, I think that would be real positive to think about communicating those things.
Thanks, Bob. Anybody have anything else before we adjourn? Okay. Yes. Come on up and yeah. You got to talk into the mic.
Sorry, this doesn't actually have to do with being on council, but I just noticed that Old Culver City is charging in all their lots now. So I think that's going to be interesting to see if
Yeah.
that changes any behaviors.
And until 8 o'clock, I think, right?
10.
o'clock.
So,
Sounds like a good reason
Yeah,
to
I
ride
don't-
bike ride to
I don't know.
Colorado City.
and then the other thing is, Rolf actually mentioned to me a few months ago, noise signage in town, which, again, the motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. And particularly as we're moving to more and more electric vehicles, I think we have an opportunity to really manage sound in a different way. So I think that's something that's going to be coming.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Sorry, there's just so many things, but I was asked to look at that, and it was from your initial request, Rolf, that to look at the signs for noise controls. So what we're looking at is maybe 3 signs at all the entrances into Manitou saying no, the noise ordinance, and reminding people not to. It maybe even says, we're looking at signs, so no, no noisy motorcycles. However, we're looking at what's we're going. Yes. So we are looking at doing that at our entrances so that. and
Hey,
that was-
Roy,
Yes, sir.
City of Morrison, you might want to reach out to Morrison Red Rocks. They have a big sign as you come into town that says whatever the ordinance is. It's again, because of motorcycles, so you might want to reach out to them.
Thank you, Bob. I will. Thank you.
Okay, and yeah, and I do look forward to feedback on the electric bike rebate program too. So, thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn, Bill.
Okay, is there a second? Second. We moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Kevin.